The Backrooms. You've been here before. Level 196, Planet of Hats. Survival difficulty. Class 2E, Environmental. Unsafe, secure, non-entity hazards. Image caption. The main hallway of level 196. Description. Level 196's main area is that of a long, singular hallway that all wanderers who arrive at the level start within. This hallway, similar to other backrooms levels, is infinite in both directions, and each wanderer who enters the level is deposited at random areas within it. The hull of the level is extremely slim, barely allowing for two individuals to cross side by side at any given time. The carpet is mostly tinted beige, with black borders against the slim walls that almost blend into the wooden skirting along the bottom of said walls. Periodically, an oval-shaped pattern can be found printed into the thin carpet. The design itself is a symmetrically inverted six-swirl design, possessing two swirls that cross along the middle section of the oval, and two on either end going lengthways. Much like the rest of the ever-stretching carpet, this emblem is also bordered by black carpet, as well as a thin strip of crimson that circles inside the main black border. The walls of this level are identically designed, white-painted PVC tiles, usually having handrails going down either side of the level's walling at random and irregular lengths. The ceilings are built from identical PVC tiling, periodically interrupted by small, circular lights that emit anywhere from extremely dim to extremely bright light. Footnote: However, as the image used above may imply, most of the lights produce a more dim glow. End footnote. At random points within the hallway, one can find laminated and reflective doors of rich, dark brown wood. The doors themselves are almost completely plain, with the only object on them being the door handle. These handles are built of a gold-painted brass material that utilize a modern push-down door handle design, with the design of the actual handles themselves containing a keycard scanner, similar to ones in hotel doors. However, the mechanisms for keycard scanning on these doors are either deactivated or simply not present. Footnote: Experiments have previously been done on these door handles to see if scanning level keys would create an entryway to the level that the key originates from. However, this experimentation yielded no results. End footnote. Behind the doors. Image caption: A natural wall of scrap found behind an orange door sign with the word scrap printed onto it. Behind every single door inside of level 196 is an outdoor, almost Earth-like geographical landscape. These worlds contain geographical resemblances to valleys, hills, mountains, riverbanks, shorelines, canyons, oceans, and any other natural formation one might expect to find within the front rooms. However, the single key difference between these landscapes and the ones they represent is that each of them is built out of billions upon billions of one singular object/type of object. These objects can range from any item, no matter how complex the item in question may be, ranging from any one element on the periodic table to the most obscure or intricately built machinery. To the best of the Meg's knowledge, each item-based world only appears once inside the entire hallway, making every doorway in level 196 completely distinguished from one another. Image caption: A yellow-signed world with a picture of a brick printed onto it, containing, rather appropriately, bricks. The outside territories are believed to be completely infinite, with the only way back into the hallway being the door that leads into the world. The main hallway itself does not exist within the outdoor areas. However, the laminated door itself, which sits upright and doesn't back against any surface, does. The hallway can be viewed from within the door when opening it, but only when opened from the entering side. On the opposite side, the doorway inside will lose its non-Euclidean connection to the hallway when opened, preventing travel back into the hallway until the door is used from the correct side. Image caption: A world filled with neatly stacked plastic stools. This world in particular was signed with a green sign and had a picture of an individual sitting down. Each world in level 196, whilst looking similar on the surface, each world contains unique geography that generally resembles areas from the middle areas of Europe. Despite each world being unique, however, a list of what biomes are believed to exist has progressively been worked on over countless years. As such, to the best of the Meg's knowledge, level 196's worlds possesses the following geographical features. Rolling hills. This type of landscape is the most common of level 196's worlds, presumably due to its simplicity of being gentle, sloped inclines and declines. All doors to the different worlds exist within these rolling hills and stretch on for approximately 150 meters in every direction, before the scenery changes to one of the other landscape variants. Rolling hills are the easiest type of quote unquote biome to traverse, even if the hills themselves still pose a tough challenge for worlds made of similar materials. The ease of traversal of these lands, instead, comes from the fact that natural, gentle valleys form between these rolling hills that very rarely experience increased or decreased elevation. After 150 meters in each direction, the rolling hills will begin to diminish and progressively turn into other quote unquote biomes that will be listed below. However, despite this, other rolling hills do exist within level 196's various worlds, the closest of which is 400 meters south. Footnote: south, in this context, does not strictly refer to the actual compass direction, and instead uses north as the direction one faces when entering one of level 196's worlds, end footnote, of any entrance door. Canyons. Existing at both the east and west sides of level 196's worlds, these canyons can be easily set apart from rolling hills due to the fact that their inclines are far steeper, oftentimes coming up to a flat 90-degree angle. Whilst the areas that aren't inclined are incredibly flat and oftentimes even form plateaued flooring, depending on the material, climbing the canyon sides is a task that can either be extremely easy or life threatening. For worlds with a more solid built structure, climbing can often be easier than climbing actual rock walls, especially if the material is of a modern and square type. However, for worlds that are made out of individual and small materials, climbing these walls can cause a domino effect of them toppling over, which has resulted in suffocation and crushing in prior instances of climbing being attempted. Rock faces and mountains. Similar to the canyons, rock faces and mountains possess extremely steep inclines, especially in the case of the former appearing. Rock faces, whilst seldom being made out of the namesake material, usually take up the base of extremely tall mountains. They are oftentimes sturdily packed together, helped by the pressing weight of the mountain tops above them. The rock faces tend to have almost 90-degree walls, making further traversal across the landscape difficult if one accidentally wanders into the two recorded dead ends recorded at the lowest mountain to the doors. Footnote: should one find these dead ends, the only available option is to either climb over them or backtrack, which should be carefully considered depending on the material any given world is constructed of. End footnote. The mountains themselves stretch upward to be relatively tall in comparison with the rest of the outdoor environment's geography. The maximum these mountains are recorded to go up to is only 500 meters. This height, whilst still a nearly impossible task to climb due to the materials that these mountains will more often than not be built of, is still a comparatively small height compared to mountains both in and out of the Backrooms. Mountains can be found mainly in the southern portions of the outdoor landscapes, meaning that one will have to backtrack to the direction they naturally came out from in order to reach these areas. Riverbanks. Behaving differently from the other quote-unquote biomes within level 196's worlds, these riverbanks do not occupy a specific square or circular area. and instead possess the quality of cutting through practically every biome on level 196. The riverbanks can be identified by encountering a V-shaped cutting that disturbs the natural flow of the biome one is currently within. Footnote: examples being a deeper cutting between two hilltops and part of a mountain being cut through to make room for a river. End footnote. Additionally, these riverbanks descend to what can be described as a quote-unquote river. However, the river in question is merely the portion between the two riverbanks where the declining embankment ceases and a more flat area of terrain begins to connect the two embankments. It is unknown just how many rivers exist within these worlds, as there is a possibility that each river connects in an infinitely long, winding route. However, given the infinite nature of these worlds, confirming or denying this theory is an impossible affair, and one that would offer little reward, even if it is somehow proven right or wrong. Coasts and oceans. Only existing in the far reaches beyond the exiting door, in the range of around 5 to 7 kilometers away from it, the terrain tends to flatten out and become far less realistic in its geography due to that. Initially, it was believed that these flatlands areas were the eternal perimeter around level 196's worlds, acting as an infinitely flat land, similar to a salt flat. However, despite the great lengths that the oceans span, footnote, being about 3 to 6 kilometers long, depending on the area being explored, and footnote, more typical and usable land exists on the other side of them. Signs. Image caption, an example of the various signs that one can expect to find nearby this level's doors. Near every door, plastic signs can be discovered nailed to the wall. The base plastic of these signs can come in green, red, orange, yellow, blue, as well as black and white, with the prints on the plastic exclusively being in either a black or white hue. Footnote: whatever contrasts best with the rest of the sign. End footnote. The prints on these signs contain either a 2D clip art of an item or any form of a noun. The contents of these signs, whilst appearing on any picture or video in the exact way the individual taking the photograph perceived it, do possess an element of fluctuating change to them. Depending on a wanderer's most spoken language, general knowledge of items, and what colors they associate with certain feelings and expressions, the sign will present itself differently to best align with those conditions. For example, a sign may present itself as red to indicate a dangerous landscape on the other side of its door for those who grew up in a Western culture, but the same sign might appear as white for someone who grew up around Chinese culture. The signs on the door, whilst already displaying what will be behind the door itself, also hint as to what danger may lie on the other side of the doorway in question. This specifically is done by the color of the base plastic, and, whilst exceptions exist, the colors usually work as follows. Footnote: this color diagram is specifically tailored to Western color interpretations and beliefs. For other cultures, please refer to other graphs saved elsewhere on site. End footnote. Color green. Danger safe. Recommended precautions. Wanderers may enter and explore the world with minimal risk. World material examples: dirt, tree logs, stone, plastic, blankets, concrete, cork, and gemstones. Color red. Danger, extreme danger. Recommended precautions. These doors should not be entered unless the materials inside are desperately needed. The risk of death or serious injury is very high. World material examples: leaves. Footnote: worlds that contain leaves have little solid ground, and anyone stepping onto them without care may fall through and either suffocate or be crushed. End footnote. Slimes and anything flammable. Any materials that are extremely small and or tough to walk on. Color orange. Danger, moderate danger. Recommended precautions. Safety is variable, and entering the doors can be worthwhile depending on the material. Whether or not to enter or not should be decided on a case-by-case basis. World material examples: small vehicles, water, fruit juice, clothing, large and solid fruits, boulders, and glass. Color, yellow. Danger, light danger. Recommended precautions. While these worlds pose minimal risk, wanderers should watch their footing due to a risk of injury. World material examples: sofas, cushions, doors, balconies, houses, buildings. Color, blue. Danger, obscure/miscellaneous. Recommended precautions. These worlds have strange materials with a difficult to classify hazard posed. The risk varies greatly on a case by case basis, so prepare accordingly. World material examples: Newtonian fluid, honey, house appliances, and anything made of fragile material. Color, black. Danger, almost instant death. Recommended precautions: merely opening these doors may result in death. Do not open them under any circumstances. World material examples: air, spatial vacuum, mustard gas, carbon monoxide. Footnote: gas worlds are somewhat frozen in the usual shape of the land. This is something only theorized to be the case with the vacuum, carbon monoxide, and other invisible gases. However, their contents will not cease to bleed into the hallway if their doors are opened. End footnote. Swords, chainsaws, and wind farm propellers. Footnote: through unknown means, select object doors, like the two described prior, will have the items that comprise them in a permanently powered state, hence their danger. End footnote. The color coordination of signs, whilst important, should not be treated as an absolute identifier of danger. With the exception of black signs, it is possible to survive and traverse worlds that are otherwise extremely dangerous, whether that be because the wanderer in question has the right protective equipment, prior training, or anything that puts one's survival capabilities above that of an average explorer. Finally, a list of anomalous, interesting, or otherwise unique worlds can be found below. Whilst the chances of discovering these rooms are slim, these descriptions exist solely to articulate some of the unique environmental hazards that one should be prepared for within the level. Image caption: a room door in level 196 that was simply labeled Water with a yellow base color. It is believed that this world used to take the shape of level 196's usual geography, but flattened due to gravity. Carbon monoxide. On an expedition trip to level 196, two explorers, footnote, the pair finding each other in level 196 was purely coincidental, as they originally started out as two separate teams that ended up meeting one another, end footnote, were attempting to find correlations and patterns between the signs and the worlds that they represented. After the two had opened and looked into approximately 25 doors, the duo came across a black sign to the left of a door with no form of printed text or imagery. Believing this to be some sort of form of exit to level 197, Crystal Caverns, the pair opened the door. However, upon opening the door, the two explorers were met with the usual blue sky and clouds that all of level 196's worlds have in common, instead of the world in question. Leaving their investigation for that world to be over, they left the area with the door open. Within minutes, however, the two had stopped sending images and messages back to their base of origin. It was only learned later on, after the bodies were accidentally discovered, that the world door they opened was filled with carbon monoxide gas, and had suffocated the duo, whilst also contaminating the local area of the hallway. Level 196. During a more recent exploration of level 196, a blue signed door, aptly titled Level 196, was discovered. Upon going inside, the explorer found several different parts to level 196's main hallway, pulled and stretched along the same general geographical layout that the level's worlds shared. Footnote: it must be noted that the features of level 196's hallways were not bent in any way that gave the impression that any of it was broken or damaged, with the features of the halls instead appearing stretched and elasticized to fit around the usual topology. End footnote. After the individual had explored the world for approximately an hour, they came across a large mountain, exclusively of the level's laminated doors, as seen from the inside of the hallway. However, upon using them, these doors were revealed to be basic functioning doors. Exactly why the door was labeled level 196 is unknown, as level 196's name was purely the result of the Meg's arbitrary level naming system. Footnote: especially when groups like the Eyes of Argos, and formerly the Leaders, note, see level 600, blank space, used entirely different methods of level organization. End footnote. However, it is theorized that the sign's tendency to change to better present information to wanderers came into effect with the name, and that to people working under organizations with a different naming scheme, the sign would change to match their name for level 196. Entity 8 Hounds. A door with a nearby sign labeled Entity 8 was once discovered by the bntg whilst gathering various supplies on their runs. This event, as seems to be standard for the bntg, was recorded on a camera attached to the worker assigned to gathering supplies, which was broadcasted back to the trader's keep. Note, see level 1, habitable zone. After spending almost 2 days collecting useful supplies from certain doors, the individual came across a black sign labeled Entity 8. Upon opening this door, the BNTG employee was met with the usual landscape. However, the entire ground of the level was entirely coated in live hounds that were embedded into the floor, packed so tightly against each other that the only action they could do was flail any limbs they could move and bark into the air. The sound emanating from the world was a cacophonous mixture of millions of different howls and growls, as well as the sounds of gory and rough kicks and squirms. The witness of this door froze in fear, though eventually they either tripped or were grabbed by a hound. After the individual was pulled into the mass of hounds and subsequently lost, the camera only stayed operational for a few moments, but the screaming of the individual was replaced by a ravenous and bloodied biting noises before the camera cut off. Manganese heptoxide. On a different trip to the Entity 8 door encounter, yet one equally as fatal, a different BNTG employee had just begun their first shift of a 4-day scavenging mission. At the time, the individual was on their 15th scavenged world before coming to a red sign that simply read manganese heptoxide. Confused about what that compound was, the individual radioed back to their base on level 40, Roller Rock and Pizza, to request information about the substance, but upon getting no reply back due to difficulties with the new radio system, the scavenger instead chose to just open the door for themselves to check. The final few frames of the video show a flat expanse of dark green liquid. The air in this land, in the final words of the explorer, was, quote, extremely cold, end quote. Before even finishing their sentence, however, the entire world began to erupt into flames and emit large chunks of an ash-like substance. Within a moment, the camera was enveloped in flames and cut out just a moment later. It was only discovered after this moment that manganese heptoxide is a volatile compound that decays rapidly and explosively upon reaching certain temperatures. After the door was opened, it is believed to have reacted with the moisture and heat that came from within the main hallway, and subsequently caused the entire body of water to burst into flames and kill the BNTG member. Image caption: a world filled with old, seemingly scrapped cars. The sign that correlated to the world was red, due to the fact that all cars had operating engines and explosive fuel tanks. Bases, outposts, and communities. Setting up a base on level 196, at least in the traditional sense of what a base is universally recognized as, is ultimately an impossible feat. The potentially infinite length of level 196, coupled with the fact that each wanderer appears at a seemingly random area of the said presumed infinite length, means creating and sustaining a group that can also keep in communication with other levels is impossible. Despite this, however, quote-unquote groups on level 196 sent out by Backrooms groups not affiliated with the Meg still exist. There are, presumably, a fair few of these individuals that come to level 196 in order to farm random supplies and return back to their base. However, the only group currently confirmed to do this are the BNTG. BNTG Asset 0196 Resource Runners. The BNTG has at least 7 individuals on their payroll who are specifically allocated to lifelong term on level 196. They carry an initial week's worth of basic food, a sleeping bag, and rudimentary weaponry for their return journeys. These individuals work mostly in complete solitude and eat, sleep, as well as forage within level 196 for up to weeks on end, exploring the various worlds to scavenge the perfect objects from each door they access. The employees are instructed to only leave level 196 after their bags are entirely filled with requested supplies, and get a base pay of 309 standard credits per day that they're away from whatever base they originated from, with an extra rise of 50 credits per day that they were gone if their bag is, quote, completely filled. This, according to low-ranked individuals who work within the bntg, is a completely arbitrary statement, and rarely do those that ever complete their work ever get this extra raise of credits. This information was completely unknown until extremely recently, wherein the Meg and bntg had their first official negotiation after their disbanding 6 years ago in order to settle who is allowed to explore what areas of the new anomaly that has recently befallen level 13, the Infinite Apartments. Negotiations have ended in the bntg temporarily aligning with the Meg to help investigate the currently undisclosed anomaly that has occurred on said level, which is still being looked into by both parties, as well as other groups, as of writing. Entrances and exits. Entrances. Exits into level 196, however varied they may be, will always place wanderers into a completely random part of the hallway of this level. This is decided per person, meaning groups that enter level 196 will immediately become disconnected from one another. Whilst reuniting with one's group is possible, it is extremely improbable due to the infinite length of the level's hallway. Along with that, all entrances cannot be reverse engineered into exits, as whatever exit one was using prior disappears upon use. Entryway to level 196 can be done from level 287, Glitched Halls, as some of the doors along its monochrome hallways can have a painted-on illustration of this level's carpet. In a similar vein to the level 287 entrance, doors within level 21, numbered doors, that brand the exact same emblem will also lead to level 196. Within level 88, corridors, a level not too dissimilar to level 196, the otherwise random carpet patterns present on the level can show extremely faint outlines of the same carpet logo within this level's hallway. Should one walk onto patterns, they will no-clip into this level. Any door within level 109, the Neon Hospital, that is labeled, regardless of what its contents may actually describe, footnote, which oftentimes is either completely garbled in incoherent text, or signs for rooms that would not typically be found in hospitals like living rooms, bowling alleys, or classrooms, and footnote, will lead to level 196 if entered. The final entrance to level 196 is from level 293, Alpha, level 293's Beach House hallway, wherein the random common rectangular shapes on the ceiling can occasionally have their interior spaces be pushed back to reveal a large black hole in the ceilings. Should one find a way to climb into these spaces, one will arrive in level 196. Exits. Whilst there are undoubtedly more exits than the ones listed below, finding the currently known exits is usually a rather easy feat. Unlike the regular doorways within level 196, the exits can appear multiple times, sometimes even appearing right next to the other, which has greatly benefited explorers in understanding what exits to other levels and what exit to worlds. Doorways with signs that have text similar to that of two arrows pointing into one another will always lead to the initial room inside level 725 of Light and Darkness. Level 7, Thalassophobia, can be accessed via any blue signs that have an image of still, flat water. These are usually represented by a wave pattern, similar to that of 4 tildes. Entering a door with a wave or water patterns of any other shape, footnote, such as large waves, beaches, boats, water buoys, etc., and footnote, will not lead to level 7, and, instead, will lead to their respective worlds. Any signs that show chess-like game pieces that do not bear any resemblance to usual chess pieces used in traditional games are an indicator that its allocated door will lead to level 157, the chess game. Footnote: these abstract chess pieces in question may resemble equally abstract parts used in chess games that differ from the usual design of pieces, although these similarities are believed to be purely coincidental. End footnote. Any door signs that do resemble typical chess pieces will usually open to a landscape that is instead just made out of said pieces, rather than a level exit. Any door sign that lacks text or imagery will always have a door nearby that leads to level 197, the Crystal Caverns, and exits into the corresponding zone that is the closest to the color of the sign. Note that signs that do not have colors corresponding to the zone colors of level 197 will not lead to the aforementioned level and will instead lead to a world. Level 202, Hallways of Chalk, is enterable via doorways that have signs attached that resemble sticks of chalk used to write with. These signs will usually have lines emanating off of the chalk stick to imitate a glowing aura, which differentiates Level 202's exits from any other signs containing chalk prints. Finally, any white signs that have a flame, flower, water droplet, or cloud clip art printed onto them will either lead to level 368, Superfluidity, level 369, Comely, level 37, Sublimity, or level 371, Despondency, respectively.